Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm here with Ninjetti Ursus,
Hey,
uh, renowned speed dueling legend, uh, known for playing unions. Um, we're gonna watch Sofa Chord and Free Squee duke it out in the, which WOB was this?
I think this was. I can just go back to it. It's 17.
Okay, cool. We're real professional here, folks. Um,
Obviously.
Alright, I guess we should start in, I'll count down and then, like, hit play on go.
Okay.
Alright, three, two, one, go. Alright, Sofa has won the rock, paper, scissors.
So these are pretty interesting decks. I don't think I've seen this version of Hidden Parasite before. It's more dark focused. Although, yeah, he doesn't draw any monsters, so it doesn't really matter right now.
Yeah, I actually, have not done much research at all. I don't remember which decks they're playing. So we've got, Hidden Parasite versus Moth, Dark Moth.
Right. Ever since the November 1st skill changes, Moth has been changing to more defensive, using cards like Eudora or Maneater Bug, since they can't OTK as easily as they could before.
That makes sense.
That
Um,
was a pretty weird matchup. I mean, not really
yeah.
sure what he's supposed to do. He doesn't draw any monsters soon enough.
Yeah, like it's hard for me to really comment on these plays because I don't play either of these decks. But I mean, I'm not really seeing any misplays so far from anyone. Like it just seems like you would do what you're doing if you get this hand. I mean, maybe put Newdoria in attack and attack with Newdoria as well. I'm not really certain why you put it in defense.
Hmm. I'm not sure. Because the downside of Hidden Parasite is it changes all monsters on the field to
Mm,
insect, including his own.
that's a good
So,
point.
yeah. Well, that's kind of like the weakness, right? Because it's just a normal spell, he can only do it on his turn.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of has to choose whether or not he wants to use his resources to stop attacks or just take the hit, but then blow up everything on field.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So he can like, Soph could like mount an attack and still have Midoriya in defense for when he's gonna hidden parasite, because it's like he's there's a good chance that he's forced to do it in the position that he's in, where like we haven't seen any monsters and there's just like Soph has way more cards than Free.
Yeah, and Free still isn't really getting any monsters. Is very unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he should have allured last turn, or do you think it's better to
Uh,
wait?
I think at this point you might as well
Yeah,
alert just like
I was thinking the same thing. It's like there's such a good chance that you just die. But
yeah. Now he's forced to just use the second hidden parasite just to blow up the field.
that's weird that he uses it now. I would have thought that he would have set Night Assailant. I guess he just wanted
Yeah,
to make sure that he had a dark monster.
yeah. Well, is he just had such an unfortunate start. I mean, he
Hmm.
had to use both of his skills, and oh man. So now at this point, he's just going to be out resourced. He just doesn't have much to go off with
Hmm.
anymore.
This is not looking good for Free Squee.
Yeah, I doubt he's able to make a comeback from this. At least in this game. I mean, we know in retrospect that Tough Core is one who wins the match, but Defense is too much. Yeah. Let's see, looking back at the deck list. So we see Free Squee uses Core Destroyer, Manier Bug, and Defusion aside. The Manier Bug can be useful in this matchup just to take hits, and clearly he doesn't draw any monsters, so he just needs to have more monsters to work with.
Mm-hmm.
The Kaiku isn't super useful in the Moth matchup. There's nothing he would really banish from his graveyard. That's something.
I'm still thinking about how he didn't allure when I thought that he should have allured. I'm thinking about, like, you can almost be sure you're going to draw a monster because he was monsterless for so long, unless this deck just, like, barely runs any monsters at all. But I would assume it runs a reasonable amount.
It's hard to say. His deck is, let's see, the deck size is 24 and uses 10 monsters. I guess that's a decent. Yeah.
I can see how he would be a little spooked to allure.
Yeah.
Interesting allure there. I'm not sure if I would do that. Although, not too familiar with the deck, of course, as well. I mean, we've got 2 moons, so I'm thinking, like, why are we setting instead of just, like, full-on attacking? Like, is he in... I get that we're probably scared of, or, like Free Squee is scared of Moth, but since he's got that backup, I don't know.
Yeah, he could just be more aggressive. There's not much he could really afraid of. He has the answer for both Wheel and for Parasite.
I don't know about this move either, but alright.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was worth losing the Parasite just to be out the nice him.
Yeah, like, especially since there's, like, removal for it. Like, you don't know if your Parasite is gonna get you the skill. I guess that he wanted, to be able to use the second skill next turn, maybe, if he thought that, like, if he anticipated it was a monster set, so he wants to get the extra draw, but I'm still not sure that that's worth it.
Yeah, he's probably thinking that, they're thinking that the extra draw will help in getting Nice Helen done out the way, because otherwise Nice Helen's stats are just so low, his damage is pretty negligible. The Parasites, the Night Assailant. We'll look him in setting the Night.
That's a weird one to choose the Night Assailant, but that's like that just makes me not like him running Parasite into it even more. If that was his plan anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, they probably should have just left the Nice Helen alone, really. And this is a killer thing, right? Book of Moon resetting the flip effect again. So that Parasite before didn't really do much of anything.
At least we're pretty protected. Like, we know that he's gonna have at least another Kaiku to come at us with, but
and there's the second book. Yeah, well, that was the risk I'm sure Core was thinking about, that they would just book the Kaiku. Now they have 2 Kaikus, so it's already played around that anyway. No Parasites as well, just a Cosmic Hand that's dead. Alright, back to the Texazoma. Benches the Parasite, I'm not sure. One.
Wait. Oh. I guess, like, might as well, maybe, is the thought process. I don't...
Well, I'm saying, what triggered Kaiku's effect? That's it. Well, either way, books the Kaiku. Yeah, it just puts it back. Misunderstood. Draw Zoma. Well, that's really good here. We know the
Oh,
set
you're a little
from
ahead of me. That's funny. I got the little spoiler of drawing Zoma, like, right as he's drawing it. Okay.
Okay, I paused it.
Oh, you're fine. You can
Okay,
just hit play. We
okay.
can be a little off sync.
Yeah, what a Zoma's going to do a lot here, unless Freesui has any kind of back removal. Zoma is just going to kill Freesui.
Wait. What just happened there?
Oh,
Why didn't he attack and... Oh, he's 17. He's 17. I thought he was higher. Okay. I get it.
Breaker was a great top deck. Just destroyed widespread and Zoma crashed into Kaiku for game.
Yeah,
Oof.
wild.
So unfortunate for Freesui. In this game, he actually didn't see any of the aerosols.
Dang.
That is tough.
Was that it, or was there, was this like grand finals, or is this just... This is
Right,
the
right,
whole
this is the
tournament, or...
Yeah, yeah, this is the finals of the tournament.
Dang. That was dirty.
Over just like that. Yeah, it's almost really good. So I guess in retrospect, Freesqui's deck is trying to use the allure with some dark monsters to try and get the aerosols just deeper into the deck. Unfortunately, he did not draw a super great combination to really utilize that right now. Like, he drew the allures, but it didn't give him as much advantage as he had hoped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting deck. This the hidden parasite thing.
Yeah, I'm more familiar with it in his warrior version, way back earlier formats, like maybe in Genzo format, maybe it was before that.
Yeah, I saw it get some play after this most recent skill errata, the warrior version. I forget, there was some deck I was playing that I was trying to test out that I think that it did really good against, but I could be misremembering. It could have done bad against it. I don't know. Here. I feel like I should look at, I guess we should look at the deck lists.
Sure, yeah. So,
Okay.
as we said earlier, Free Squeeze using the dark version of the deck by using the Lure of Darkness engine to try and get deeper into the deck. Uses the Breaker with Open Dictive, Night Assailant, Kaiku, some basic generic. Actually, his main deck as a whole is very much anti-monster, has a lot of monster removal, the Open Dictives and Night Assailants, Aerosol itself, Widespread. So, very anti-monster. I'm actually interested in what matchups he had through the tournament to see what decks that had a hard time against this.
Yeah. I wonder how it does against magnets, especially, frankly. I feel like magnets are a sleeper hit, even though they didn't really... They got a top 8, but... The fact that they can just, 50-50 unions, I feel like makes them very powerful.
Well, they're definitely in a weird spot. I feel like against this deck, they can... I feel like this isn't really in Magnet's favor.
No,
so
yeah,
Kaiku
I agree.
already...
Like I'm saying, I think that that Parasite would do good against magnets. At least theoretically, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. at least when I was playing Magnets against them, I'm not a Magnet expert, but one of the things I noticed is that at least how a Moth has their build now with a lot more monster removal besides Parasite, it's very difficult to have monsters on the field to take Moth's hit,
Mm.
and even if it does, like having enough life points to make a comeback, because you still have to attack into Moth if they don't attack into it
Mm-hmm.
itself.
Oh, you're talking
Your life
about
points.
sofas? I was talking about the hidden parasite.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Well, I'll talk Hidden Parasite then. So Hidden Parasite, I think in this case, I think is also not very good for magnets. Aerosol is just a board
Mm-hmm.
wipe that kind of negates the whole uh, magnets swarming the field, unless they destroy Delta and its effective float. But any kind of monster removal will destroy that. So it might be a little
Mm-hmm.
too many monster removal. And then Kaiku itself makes it even more annoying.
Yeah, like such a big thing about magnets that's so threatening is how big of a board that they can build up, and hidden parasite just like completely negates that ability if you draw your removal, of course. Um,
That's true. Or even if you don't see aerosol, the fact that it changes all of them into insects means the field spell can't uh,
mm,
bounce any monsters back either.
oh, that's a good point. Is that a Okay, it's only till the end of the turn, but that's still good. Um,
Yeah, it does. Your opponent only takes half damage that turn too, but just the fact that none of your monsters have to be bounced back is really powerful.
hmm. Okay, so I mean, I guess we can talk about the moth deck too now.
Yeah,
Maybe we could go back and forth. I don't know if I think of anything. I guess before we move on, the side deck on Hidden Parasite is interesting. It shows that it it needs a little extra support for to beat unions, and I don't know about the man-eater bugs. I wonder what he sides those in for. I guess Spa? Maybe? I don't know. Well,
maybe.
I mean,
I'm
Spa
trying to.
still like. I mean, Spa isn't really a threat, frankly. It's a not a great deck in my opinion, but I mean it's okay, but that this skill would still like since it turns them into insects, you could still use the spell against them. So
Yeah, probably using it as just more monster removal. I'm not sure why Man-Eater Bug in particular. You could just use more Old Vindictive. Maybe to
yeah,
play around Nobleman of Crossout, since
mm,
if it banishes a flip monster, it
mm-hmm.
banishes all copies.
That would make
So maybe,
sense. Do you think that he did we see Maneater Bug in that game?
yeah, we saw it a few
Yeah.
times. So
Okay. So
it was decent.
that would make sense that he would side it in to fight Moth, and that it would help to combat the Nobleman of Crossout.
Yeah, or at least a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Crossout is a super common card in general.
Mm-hmm. I find that Moth decks will side it in if they see you setting. Like I've had to deal with knock and against Moth decks with unions, even like multiple times. Maybe that's just like I'm getting unlucky, but if they see my Night Assailants, they start siding in knocks.
Yeah, and since Moth itself is tend to using Manager bugs, maybe Nidorius as well. There's also probably for the mirror as well.
Mm. Um.
But yeah, there is a lot of anti-union stuff in the side deck. Core Destroyer and Defusion. And of course Kaiku in the main deck. I can probably see why. Hidden like Book of Moon kind of always messes with Hidden Parasite with Aerosol. If it's face down, it's not an insect to that point. So
Mm-hmm.
that can be a little tough. And also if the Uni monsters are equipped, like the Hanger play, for example, it kind of just negates that as well. Um, Though I'm surprised Core Destroyer. I feel like he would use more Defusion. Because I feel like the deck outside of like his flip monsters and widespread doesn't have that much interaction with the opponent. Like if XYZ is made, all they like they have to hope to book it. But if
Mm-hmm.
if it's booked, it can't be aerosoled. So
Yeah,
no, but
that's true.
you know. But I mean, uh, got second place, so
Mm-hmm.
worked out enough. So it kind of sounds like we're saying the deck's kind of bad, but it did get second place, so it seems to be good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I think I can see how it was good in this meta, especially because I think that. I mean, I don't know. I would like to fight unions against it, but I feel like what did we see? The first tournament post errata, we saw unions, magnets, and um, were there moths? Did any moths top in the last tournament?
Yeah, Ron. Well, I guess for pure. Well, actually, there's a
Yeah,
lot of
okay.
moths.
There
It was
were
top 16.
in the bottom four of the top eight is all moth. Okay, and then Spa somehow got first place, and the propaganda engine of everyone playing Spa was put into effect.
Oh yeah, it was the most anti-meta build I've seen.
Um, let's
But
see.
yeah, I guess we can go to the sofa quartz list.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I like first off, I must say, running 20 cards. I am a fan of. It's not
Yeah,
that popular with speed duelists I've seen, but I am a big fan of running as little cards as possible.
yeah, and most decks can afford it. Not too many decks really need to
Hmm.
have more than 20.
I guess that is also something worth mentioning about this other deck. The hidden parasite is like, does it really need to be running 24 cards? But we can we can focus on Sofa's deck because since we have not at all. Mean honestly, it seems like a pretty standard like moth build. I don't know. It seems very what's the word? Optimized, I guess. Although I do have some I wonder about the only two cyclones, although I could see how that would make sense. How you would want to run two of them, but I don't know, man. I feel like in some matchups you really want all three. And I wonder about
Yeah,
Nightmare Wheel and if that works out better than running like three cyclones. But I could imagine why he's running a wheel instead.
I think Cosmic is definitely pretty good to play at 3 in Cosmic, whether you have the third one side or maining just the two.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the most interesting is using Kaiku. I think Kaiku isn't actually that good right now.
Mm.
Like, it's the idea is to use it against XYZ and magnets,
Mm-hmm.
especially maybe magnets.
That's
But
interesting
it's
because I
kind
would
of
think XYZ is what it was mostly going after.
yeah, it is. But I feel like the Moth deck is kind of inherently good enough to kind of deal with XYZ, especially if you have like the side deck with Defusion. I don't think Kaiku is really super necessary to have a main deck.
Hmm.
But the thing I'm a little surprised is using Nidoria over Maneater Bug. Maneater Bug is I think especially good in Moth right now, just because it can be
Why
shuffled back
Maneater
into.
Bug specifically?
Oh, it's because it can be shuffled back into the deck with the
Mm-hmm.
skill.
That makes sense.
So yeah, so even if they don't have Parasite, they can use that to try and get deeper into their deck. It's also a good going first option. Then Nidoria is good as well. It kind of serves the same purpose, but Book of Moon has a better synergy with Main Bug in particular as well.
That's true. That is a good point. That
Yeah,
that would probably be
I think
better
I
as a
will.
Maneater Bug. I don't know though. I wonder if there's something I'm not thinking about that's like, is he trying to use it so that he can run it into things and like choose his, I don't know.
Well, it's just a Nidoria on its own is more flexible.
Mhm.
By comparison to Main Bug, it needs to be flipped.
Yeah,
So Nidoria doesn't need to be flipped. So
but it does need to
uh,
be destroyed.
yeah, that's true.
Um there was something else I
I
was going to say
actually
about
like.
Kaiku is I wonder if it's also to help the stall matchup.
Which style you're talking about? The zombie one?
Yeah, zombie.
Oh yeah,
Because
yeah. Actually, that makes sense.
I feel like Kaiku seems like a card that it probably does decently against a few different things. Um, I mean, I guess it's like it feels if you want more beaters, like more than just breaker. Kaiku seems like he makes more sense in this meta than just like going with I don't know, like Gaia or something. Of course, you could say that maybe he should be running more like non-beaters, but this feels like a very beat down centric moth list.
Yeah, it definitely is. I don't know. I mean, I think this all matchup is also kind of rare to see. Though I guess it's getting a lot more traction with the recent pops of Viral Despair. But I don't know. I feel like Moth has a pretty decent time against Stall just from the back row removal, and just because Moth is just bigger than anything they can throw out. Especially Man-Eater Bug synergy with Book of Moon. So even if they try to stall like that, I mean, but Kaiku does do a lot. That is true.
So, like, do you think he should? What do you think he should be running instead of Kaiku if you were gonna take him
Uh,
out?
Well, I guess I want. I guess I've really tried. 'Cause I'm not a moth player. I don't really care about using moth, but definitely Man-Eater Bug. I think is really useful here. I think more Nightmare Wheels. I think that is also an anti-stall card. Stall, unless they have their own wheels, and with Twist personality having the nerfs they are, they probably aren't even using any burn cards. It's just monster stall. I
Mm-hmm.
think Nightmare Wheel is way more effective at burning your opponent, so it puts them on a timer to where like they have to be this all deck has to be much more proactive. But Moth is just so big they can't do anything about it really.
Hmm. That makes sense. I guess I do want to say I have fought players that use Kaiku against unions, and it actually has fucked me up a little bit. So I think it does
Oh
make
yeah,
sense as an anti-union thing. And personally, even though this is a controversial thing to say, I feel like Moth is not that great against unions. Like, I think that, I mean, depending on the list, I feel like unions is still slightly favored. Like, I think that Moth, like, especially now, before the errata, you could say that Moth was favored. But now I feel like the inconsistency of Moth is really um, has made a deck that was already like an RNG sort of like OTK build into like even more RNG is necessary to win with it. I don't know.
interesting. I mean, I do think Moth is still very strong.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
think it's strong. I mean, it won. Not that a
yeah,
deck that is bad couldn't win, but I do think that this deck is good, and I think that Moth is very powerful. I just think that inconsistent play. I feel like the fact that I think that unions haven't. Well, I guess the thing is, I also run Night Assailants in my unions, so I have a somewhat different perspective of it because it's like I'm already maining things that help against Moth, and I'm like I think that the moons and if you run like two Night Assailant in Union mained that they are good against like most decks and they really help your Moth matchup. So I feel like with you adding in the more consistent nature of unions that they're more favored overall. Like if you did like 100 games or something, or if you did like infinite games, that unions would tend to win more often. But I could be
I can
wrong.
probably.
I've not run any math, so I'm just kind of speaking out of my ass based on theory.
Yeah, that and with the shift towards Newdoria and Man-Eater Bug, it's much more vulnerable to YZ than it has before, as well. Uh, so that is also in Union's
Mm-hmm.
favor.
Cause
I think just
yeah.
I think it's just the nature of having to play around Parasite that always kind of gives Unions trouble. Their main deck monsters just aren't that strong.
Mm-hmm.
So now their fusion monsters are, they can bring out a lot of them in a single game, and your opponent outside of Moth doesn't really have a way to out it. But it can be really difficult, especially like in game 2 and 3 situations where defusion can just remove it.
Mm-hmm.
It spreads Book of Moon really thin alongside the massive amount of back row removal, like through Breaker and Cosmic. I feel like Unions, their way of playing around Moth is, I think, maybe about the same as it was before. It's still kind of awkward. It's just too much removal, but yeah, like Night Assailant and cards like that does help a lot with trying to maneuver around Moth, because Moth's really the only threat. Once you get rid of that, your fusion monsters does all the work, even if it's just there as as just a big body to sit on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I think Moth. I need to have more practice against him too, but I feel like Moth still has like maybe it's more 50-50,
Mm-hmm.
maybe lean more towards XYZ, but I don't know. I'm not really sure yet. But
I could understand that. I feel
I
like
guess
if I
the
had to say, I would want to say that it's like 45 to uh holy shit, to 55. I was about to say 65, and then I'm like, that's not correct. Um I could be wrong. Maybe not even like 45, maybe like 40, like 8, 49% Moth, but that's
it's
still
hard to
like
say.
over time. I feel like even if it's a 50-50 normally, even if it was that, I feel like that's not very, like, you want something more than that, or you want to try to have the edge in that
Yeah,
matchup because unions are so like prevalent. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think of unions as like the standard deck. Maybe I'm like biased, but they feel like the most like
maybe a little,
consistent and like powerful.
maybe a little biased. I feel like I'd never see XYZ.
Really, I
Yeah,
see a
I don't
lot of
really think
them. I guess it
as
depends
a,
on the
I feel like I
format.
just never see them. Yeah, I feel like I just in general I just do not see them. Like I mean they do exist, right? But like I feel compared to Moth, like I feel like
Hmm.
everyone plays Moth. You know,
Interesting. See, I feel like, well, I guess also, maybe Moth is like the standard deck, but I think of Moth as like, I don't know, I think about it as like an OTK. At least I used to. Not really anymore, after the errata. But like before that, it was just like an OTK deck, which is like, I barely even like considered it in my like thinking about the format. Like, of course you had to consider it, but like, in terms of like Moth was just, it used to be so fucking easy to play that it's like, of course a lot of people are gonna play it. But like, I guess I'm thinking about like top players. Like, I've seen a lot of top players play unions, but I guess they do
like
play Moth as well sometimes. I've seen it shift around a little.
well, I mean, what players are you talking about? I can kind of mostly just think about me and Beast as the main two. I don't really, no one else really comes to mind.
Well,
Maybe Nikki, maybe. Well, I don't think he really.
Mike.
Besides the,
Maybe that was just me fighting
well, Mike,
Mike, but I've fought him with unions, I think,
well,
a
Mike
few
kind of switches
times.
around. Yeah. I don't know.
I could be wrong.
Oh, West, another one that comes up.
Mm.
That's true. Yeah. But yeah, so I guess interesting for Sofa Court side deck. We see the Diffusion Core Destroyer, but we see the Sphere Rebo and Genzo as well. I imagine Sphere Rebo is just for the SBA matchup. And maybe Genzo too, really, just because it turns off their own Zomas and widespreads.
Mm-hmm.
Genzo is useful against all decks as well. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty balanced side deck. Not too much investment in the stall matchup besides the Genzo. So,
Mm-hmm.
so it didn't seem like they were that concerned about that matchup.
Yeah. I feel like I need to pick up Stall. I feel like it's a good deck and not enough people are playing it. But maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
it's
Like when I've fought Stall, I swear they've been some of the most intensive like speed matchups. It's like you really have to fucking think and like play perfectly. Like I guess they could brick sometimes, and then if they brick, they're just like fucked. But when I've fought Stall, it's like they just don't stop. They just like they're always defended, and they just mill your whole fucking deck. I don't know.
I think I think the problem I have with Stall is that I feel like there's like pockets of inconsistency that really hurts them. Like the fact that nothing searches Haunted Shrine or like even gets to it can really it can really hold them back.
Mm.
Getting Zombina is pretty easy through Giant Rat, and there's other stall cards that can help get to that point. I do think it's much stronger now than it was before, like with the
Oh,
Eratas, just because
definitely. Mm-hmm.
Like Nightmare Wheel and Floodgate are just much more powerful now. Especially Floodgate, especially against Magnet Warriors. If you just Floodgate their deltas, like that's just a monster zone that's just done. Like they can't do anything with it. They can't send it for Valkyrian or using it on XYZ summon. If they don't have a book, that's just a zone that's just taken up unless they have Obelisk. It's really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And of course Moth. You can use it on Moth summon, so that kind of neuters all that. I guess speaking of that too, like the fact that a lot of Moth pills are using Book of Moon at 3 in the main deck is a pretty notable change from the previous builds before the errata.
I didn't really keep that much track of Moth before, but yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Moon is just so powerful now. The fact that the opponent has priority after the use of a skill is just like makes Moon so much better for like so many matchups.
Yeah, it was already like the card of the format, but now it's like even more. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. It's kind of unfortunate. There's no other card that really like comes close to his like versatility.
Hmm.
Like there are some cards that are pretty decent, but like
Mm-hmm.
it can do so many things,
Yeah,
so much.
that's true. I wonder. I'm trying to think if there's like anything that's even like close to that.
Maybe the second, maybe Zoma is just like a powerful card in general.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Cyclone, not in terms of like versatility as much as just like every deck runs it basically. Like it's just like the first piece of like pure ST removal that we've had.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely the best one of its kind, right? It's a quick play spell, which is like I think for a spell trap is like the best kind.
Mm-hmm.
Spell that can use a trap, use immediately.
I mean,
Um,
it depends, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you can't have fate turn a set, but uh, which like a trap. But the fact that it banishes Parasite is huge. Like nothing else. I think besides there's this arrow spell that can do the same thing, but it's not as flexible as Cosmic. It only destroys face-up spells. Cosmic is just much more versatile. Actually, I don't even think that card banishes. I could be completely wrong about that. I
Which
think that
one
just
were
destroys.
you talking about?
I think it's called Spell Shattering Arrow or something like that.
I
That one I don't think banishes.
Let's see. Destroy as
It
many
just
face-up
destroys.
spells your opponent controls as possible, and if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each.
Yeah, it just destroys.
Okay.
It doesn't banish. So that's one thing that makes Cosmic really unique is that it's like the only like back removal that banishes face up and face downs. The only other one I think is Nobleman of Extermination, but it's only face down. So, um, but yeah, it's really really powerful just for that. Banishing it is mostly just really good for Parasite. Like I feel like for most everything else, you can use any other like back row. Like Night Beam only hits sets, but your opponent can't activate the targeted card in response.
Mm-hmm.
Which can
Although,
be used.
the thing that I love about Night Beam is like, I think that was one of the first cards where I felt like I'm trying to think of the wording, where it's like, holy shit, Yu-Gi-Oh is like deep as fuck. Where like someone like I Night Beam and then someone like flips another card, another one of their sets, and then chains the one that I flipped to it to use it. I'm like, oh my god, That's like cheating. That's like I just got hacked.
Yeah, legal cheating, if you
Yeah.
will. Yeah, that is pretty nice. I think Night Beam is just kind of like it just feels kind of whatever right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like its main benefit is that it's a spell removal. It's not a trap, so I can use it immediately. But
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you can just play around that can be like on one hand, I feel like that's kind of bad. That's kind of fairly easy to play around, but like I feel like it's not even worth playing around a lot of the times.
Oh yeah.
Uh, like I don't know.
I'm trying to think like Night Beam. I feel like if someone was going to use Night Beam in like this meta, it's hard for me to really see unless you're just going for like a rogue option where you just want to like where you're doing some sort of mind game or something. I feel like the only deck that would really think about running it is like Gaia, but that's not even really like a real deck this format even then.
Yeah, well, I think that deck's never been real, really. But uh,
I
I
thought it
think
was real for like for like a hot week or something like
maybe
a
it
year
was
like
like
two
it was
years
much
ago.
more. Yeah, it was better before Battle City Box in terms of matchups. But I guess one thing that is really good about Night Beam in comparison to Cosmic is that if your opponent only has the one set,
Mhm.
Night Beam can be really good to just get rid of that
Yeah.
without having to chain it. Though at the same time, it kind of depends for that. They can just chain and standby phase if they want to play around it anyway. So I don't. So even then, it
Mhm.
still feels kind of whack. But at least you didn't have to pay 1,000 life points to try and get rid of it. So
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely run into times in Speed Duel where I've like saved my Cyclone or something and then I get like just below 1000 and it's like damn, this card is now completely blank.
yeah. So I wonder, what do you think about Core Destroyer in this format? I feel like it's good, but I feel like Diffusion a lot of times kind of like outshines it.
Hmm.
Because in Silver Court's list, using the Core Destroyer into Diffusion instead of just like
Mhm.
more one over the other.
I'm not sure how I feel about Core Destroyer. I think it being dark is very nice for it. Um it gives it a little more versatility. Um yeah, I mean I feel like Diffusion is better, but at the same time it kind of depends on the deck. It's like it depends on the slots that need to be filled up, I think. Like which one you run. Like if you're trying to take out monsters so that you're better against XYZ, I think that Ally is probably better. If you're trying to take out ST, then Diffusion is probably better. But overall, I would probably say Diffusion like inches it out a little bit. Although it is worth being said that if you ally uh, a fused monster, it'll get destroyed instead of get sent back to the deck. And sometimes you really want to try to get unions to run out of those monsters. Like you don't want to give them the option to fuse back into it.
Right.
It depends. I think with like a moth deck, I think Diffusion makes more sense. And with a deck that might go longer, Ally could maybe make more sense. I think both are cool though. Like if you like I think that both is like probably better than just one of them. If you're really trying to side in to like fuck Moth. I mean fuck Union, sorry.
Right. I mean, I think it's fine to mix them if you really want to. I mean, both of them kind of deal with it. The main problem I have with Core Destroyer is that it just takes up the normal summon.
Sure.
It is good that it just removes the monster, unlike Diffusion. I feel like sometimes unions just kind of struggle to get it. Like, even though Diffusion bounces the monster back, unless they have scrambles to kind of like get their pieces back, it can be difficult for them to just kind of like make it right back.
Mm-hmm. While that
Uh,
is true, scrambles go such a long way. Like even like just like two scrambles is like an insane amount of summoning. Like assuming you can stay alive, considering that you
Yeah,
get like three back and then you can like remove it from the graveyard to get another one back is just insanity.
yeah. That and Core Destroyer is you can play around it with Book in the same way as Diffusion by just setting your monster when they declare an attack on it. So then, at start of damage step, it still considers face down monsters face down at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So then, after it's flipped face up, it's now past that point. So its 1200 is attacking any of the big fusions. Not only for big damage, but you just saved your monster outright.
That's
I
true.
know Spoke Performer likes using Core Destroyer sometimes because it can't be booked itself, but I can just book my monster, so it's not really too much of a difference
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. Um, yeah. At first, I guess talk about Sphere Kariba a little bit more. I feel like Moth has a worse matchup versus SBA right now, but it's funny enough, it's still not really a bad matchup. I don't think. Like with monster removal, like Manual Bug and Edoria being used more, or Zomas and Nightmare Will still being as prevalent as they are, unless their opponent's getting Jinzo out, they can't really deal with the monster removal with the Nidorias and Man-Eater Bugs. It's a little too much for them. So,
Hmm.
or at least I think so. I feel like unless you're playing like Soul Exchange or like the equip spell that negates the effects of monsters, the equip monster destroys, is really difficult for SPE to like have a feel to do anything. So,
Hmm.
but
That is
and I feel
interesting.
like that's kind of the only reason to use Sphere is versus them. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty low impact versus everything else, I think. But
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to think if there could be anything else that we're using it for. Um.
there are some niche uses you can use it for, right? Like you can use it against other moths that would attack.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use that to stop. It's the safest kind of like monster attack, but not negating the attack, but it's stopping the attack because it's not vulnerable to any back row removal.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's really using Mind Crush that often, or is calling Sphere Karibo if they're using it.
Yeah.
So
There was
yeah, I
that
mean,
really
if you just
cool Pegasus deck that like used Mind Crush and the one that lets you see the hand.
oh yeah,
Anyway,
that was a creative,
that's an
but it did
aside.
not.
But I'm a big fan of that one. I think it's cool, even if it's not like meta or anything.
Yeah, it's a funny little interaction.
Um, do you think you would ever? Or do you think that? Hmm. How do you think? Do you think Moth would change anything? Would like side into Sphere for magnets, or do you think they would just like keep the deck as it is? Because I was thinking about how it could potentially be useful for like Valkyrion or something if you're trying to just like, or even just like stall, because magnets can be so aggressive and build a board so fast.
I actually think Sphere isn't that good versus Magnus in general, especially for Moth. Like, it's cool to like use it against Valkyrian or just any of the attacks to kind of reduce the damage, but Valkyrian only has 3,500. If you have your Moth already out, I mean, the best is doing is Crash, and like that's decent. But you putting in a Sphere didn't really doesn't really change too much about it. I mean,
Oh, I was even thinking like you don't have your moth out, like you're using Sphere if you haven't like drawn your parasite yet and you're just trying to like stall a turn, which is like of course not the best thing to do, but I'm just trying to think about if there's any other uses for Sphere.
uh, I mean, yeah, it could be decent to stop Valkyrian's attack for that, right? I mean, stopping a big monster attack is pretty useful, but I think the deck has ways of like kind of playing around it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they summon like, especially because if they like Kaiku for example, right? I guess we're assuming Valkyrians are on field, so either they use Delta's effect to summon it out, or they naturally summoned it. If they naturally summoned it, they have like very little like coverage cards for anything. It's just like Valkyrian and maybe like a Delta on field. So at that point, you only have to stop really one big attack, and then you can just parasite. And I don't know. I feel like the deck kind of already has inherent ways of playing around that without needing Sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I will say in the mirror, it is pretty decent against like breakers or moths attacking, since you can like more immediate. You can by comparison to magnets much easier. It's much easier to attack over it at that point. But I
Yeah.
don't know. Sphere is in a weird place right now. It's never really been a bad card, but I think right now it's kind of been power crept a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Its impact is just not that high anymore. I feel like it's just like an anti SBA card now.
Yeah.
That's like just,
That is a good point though about the mirror. I think that makes more sense than uh than magnets if you're trying to find any other use for it. But yeah, I feel that too. It's weird. It's like, hmm. Do you think that the skill errata changed anything with Sphere? Because it almost feels like Sphere was more valuable before Book could just like do anything.
oh yeah, I think the skill made a massive change.
Mm-hmm.
Because of how Moth worked before, it never really had a very strong going first play. Besides, like maybe something breaker and setting some back row removal, which was usually Cosmic or something
Mm-hmm.
or Zoma. Oh no, actually, they didn't even use Zoma. They didn't. So Sphere was really useful as a lure target and for defense. But now that they've shifted kind of away from that Moral TK style, is less. There's kind of like no real place to put Sphere, because that's really where
Mm-hmm.
its home was for the meta. And Spell Performer was even less relevant, so like it was mostly just used in Moth as a alert target and for defense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't think any other deck really used it besides Moth. And now Moth is kind of still like the only deck to use it, but even then they're using it even less.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's probably like Moth still doesn't. Moth's defense is still kind of one dimensional. I mean, you have like Domain Your Bug, Newdoria, which is why they're trying to incorporate Book of Moon and Nightmare Wheels in there to try and give deck more defense, since they're kind of forced to play like that now. Um, and Sphere can be useful for that as additional defense that isn't affected by Breaker or just back removal in general. But it's still pretty low impact. I mean, hey, well, that's why it's a side deck card. That's why I'm not really maining it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I will say it's still good in builds that want to use Alert Darkness, because it still serves that purpose. But
Yeah.
uh, it's just not that great right now. I'm sure it still has potential to be like really good in the future, but it's not really that amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel similarly. It's it's interesting because that was a card that like at least from what I remember, um like in Duel Links forever, people use Sphere Karibo. It was like so many decks
Yeah,
would use it. It was just like if you have a space that you can put Sphere Karibo in, you might as well put Sphere Karibo there. Um, I mean, it makes sense though that it's like already been power crept because like speed has such a weird. Speed is so weird that it's like it feels like it's power creeping so much faster than Duel Links did when I played that. Um, like Book of
yeah,
Moon is crazy. Like imagining Book of Moon back in back in the day in Duel Links is like that would change so many things. It's really weird that they like that speed feels like it's okay to print such like powerful staples just like immediately.
yeah. The Speed Duel is very interesting by comparison to Duel Links at the time. Speed Duels is. It's really weird because Duel Links progresses much faster. I don't remember how long ago it started before Speed Duel, but it definitely had a jump start. But like,
Oh yeah,
uh,
it existed for like a few years before Speed Duel existed.
oh okay.
Yeah, like I had been playing Duel Links for a while when they announced Speed Duel, and I was like, "Oh, this looks like Duel Links."
Like, well, it basically was that, just physical,
Yeah,
but you know, different.
and a different card pool. Yeah, It
Yeah,
was funny
his Speed
because
Duel.
at the beginning I thought that they were going to like I thought that they were sort of starting early and that they were going to make it like that they were going to keep adding cards and make it closer to Duel Links, but like that is completely not what happened. I mean, of course, I had no knowledge of like Matt or like anything like that, like any of the insider, like I wasn't on Discord or anything. It was just like I saw it announced or like my friend saw it
Yeah,
announced and talked to me about it or whatever.
yeah, same for me. I wasn't around for that really.
Cuz we played with the
But
starter decks and I was just like, wow, this is weird as fuck.
yeah, is the starter decks were very strange. Honestly, I wasn't really a big fan of that meta. It was basically just two decks. It was Amazonas. No, I guess it was three because like there's Amazonas, there's Pure, then there's the tribal version,
Mhm.
and then there's Blue Eyes and the variants with that. But it was still more or less two decks.
Yeah.
Uh, I think, and to me, it's going to be. They've changed a little bit. Battle City Box is really unique, I think, for the products because it has like the most like holistic variety to it in a way that doesn't feel like the deck like they're trying to cripple the decks too much because that was like a thing that happened for like a lot of the early sets of Speed Duel. They had like a very specific approach to it that wanted to hamstring some inherent strategies so they just can't work as just as well as like as they could in like a reasonable way. um but they maneuver around this, right? Well, until S&D was the deck, and then that was like the only good deck of that format. It was just so powerful.
Wait, S&D?
Uh,
Oh,
yeah,
oh, S&D. Yeah, yeah. Serpent
yes,
Knight Dragon.
that
Okay.
was a whole. I wasn't a part of that, but that I heard that was a
Yeah,
terror.
me either. I was not a part of it, but I've heard horror stories, and then like Lucas made me go back and like play some with him, and it was just like pure RNG nonsense.
Yeah, it was that deck and nothing else.
Yeah.
It was, that was it. But I guess looking at how it is right now, I think it's a lot more balanced. A lot more decks are capable, and even Moth, especially with Skill Eradas, has while it hasn't drastically changed it, it's changed its general approach. It's like more of a balanced, somewhat defensive deck that has a very strong burst option with the skill
Hmm.
instead of just an ultimate deck. So
Hmm.
yeah, I guess thinking about the future, I feel like Moth. I feel like it's going to be hard for Moth to be power crept, just in general. It's just because it removes a monster while getting Moth out is really powerful, and the way you have to play around it is very obnoxious. I mean, just discovery or backward removal, and your opponents are just never able to get around it. The most, and this is the thing actually, I think they're going to go with the direction, maybe not with GX Box immediately, but in general, because of the skill restriction they made to it. If your opponent has two monsters on the field, even if you parasite one, the Moth will attack the other one, but it was not hurting the life point. So if you have an answer to Moth after that point, then that's how you get rid of it. And that's how I'm thinking how they're going to approach power creeping it. But even with that, it's still kind of difficult. I mean, it's just that
Hmm.
one play. But
What do you mean
now the deck,
exactly? Power creeping it how?
they're going to have decks that are more able to swarm the field. So where even if you parasite one and then Moth
Hmm.
attacks the other, like they'll have like a follow up next turn to
Yeah,
deal with it.
okay. That makes sense. I mean, that would be a healthier way probably to power creep it than like what I'm imagining, which is just like making even more insane skills to the point that like people don't even want to use Moth, that they use something else, and then make that
Okay.
thing easily counterable maybe, but make it still like a better OTK than Moth. I don't know.
Yeah, I suspect that Cyber Angels might be that deck who's going to immediately power creep it. But you never know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, good job on Sofa Court for winning.
Yes.
Thor was not expecting to play against Hidden Parasite of all decks at finals, but you know, very good on them.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations, and congratulations to Free Squee for making it to second place.
Oh yeah, very impressive. I don't know. It might be the first time that deck has ever topped in any of these tournaments.
Yeah,
I could be,
I mean, I don't know, but I would believe it. Definitely very
yeah.
impressive.
Oh yeah, very impressive. I'm trying to look at who else got top eight. So in top eight, we also have Delicates with Relinquish.
Yeah,
I
I
know
was
they've been,
looking at that a little bit.
yeah, they've been on Relinquish for a good while now, trying to see what's the best version. He has a very interesting 30 card version.
Yeah, I'm looking at his deck right now. It's like I don't even know how to talk about this. Like I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's very different from last time I played against them. You see the Dark Red Enchanter.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, Relinquish. They summon it, then they uh, tribute summon into Dark Red using it. It's pretty straightforward, and I
Hmm.
guess it kind of makes sense. It tries to do something to your opponent since the skill is used in Thousand Eyes spell prevents you from going to your battle phase the turn you use it. So using Dark Red to try and do something to the opponent is kind of useful. Interesting to know Jinzo though. That's usually the card I see with this strategy, but I didn't feel like they needed it. So
Yeah. Weird side deck having the beginning of the end and spell shattering arrows. It's very
oh yeah,
interesting.
well, I guess it kind of makes sense with besides the light monster and Magician of Faith, his deck is mostly dark monster. So, well, especially the Apprentice engine, so he's able to pretty easily clog up the graveyard with it.
Yeah.
Which is still very interesting. I wonder what matchup they're thinking of using it in.
Yeah. I wonder too.
But a lot of variety. Yes, one of the great things I think with this deck, or at least a skill, is being able to naturally fusion summon into Thousand Eyes Restrict. Legion can search the idol, and that monster combined with Illusionist is, oh, that's a painful stall. Like that puts all other stall decks to shame. It's impossible to get through. Feels like
Hmm.
so good. Especially see, he's also playing the Magical Undertaker, so that can also summon back Thousand Eyes or the Relinquish or any of the other low level spellcasters. That's pretty cool. That's pretty strong.
What skill does he use with this? Is there a relinquish skill?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
called
there
a
is. Okay.
yeah, Thousand Eyes spell.
Hmm.
Yeah, very interesting list. Let's see.
I'm glad
Besides
that
the second,
that made it this far. Also,
yeah, it's been a long time since I think Relinquish has topped, or maybe not that long, but fairly recently.
then we've got
Let's see.
viral infection.
Yeah, now this deck, I will say, this version of the deck has been doing really well recently in the winter boxes. Way better than what I expected.
This is the
Viral.
zombie version, right? I mean, it looks
Right.
exactly like it.
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
uses Zombie Book of Life and
Hmm.
usual time. I guess I will say in this build, not going fully into New Doria is interesting. That's like the best target for Zombina.
Hmm.
Uh, so I feel like a lot of times Zombina might. I could be wrong here, but I feel like Zombina in this build might not be able to use this effect too often unless you have New Doria at the same time, because like not that strong reviving Nice Healing besides just a body on field. But and even then, you probably don't even have Nice Healing in Graveyard unless you just um, well, I guess you would early on, but it's still kind of awkward. But it seemed to work out. Got top cut. I think again in a row. I think from last tournament. Let's see. Pretty sure it also topped from the same person. Yeah, in top 16 last tournament also topped with a similar list.
Hmm.
Yeah.
21 card in Allure makes me feel very weird, but
Well, not using too
we'll
many
do it.
darks. Yeah, using some dark, so the lure is fine and doesn't want to deck out too much.
Hmm.
Uh, or I should try to say using the lure to kind of get deeper into your deck to the combinations.
Yeah.
Uh, Double Book of Life is kind of interesting. Usually I only see them play one, but using two in this build.
Hmm.
So the side deck, got a Jar of Avarice to help not be decked out as easily. The DD Crow is a pretty interesting tech. Definitely don't see that card very
Yeah.
much anymore.
Anymore.
Yeah. Santa Claus, Cosmic Offerings, Lost Wind. Yeah, there's just a bunch of one ofs.
Yeah,
Not
I
really
was gonna
committing.
say the side deck feels like, I mean, maybe I'm the small brain here, but it feels like unoptimized. It feels like someone like was like, man, I don't know what I want to side. I want to side everything. So just did like one ofs, but I don't know. Like, why are we
And,
siding? What is Santa Claus for?
I imagine against decks that have like a monster bigger than viral, or monsters that are kind of threatening on their own,
I guess so. Yeah.
like maybe using against the moth. You know, if you get rid of the moth, they don't really have an out to the viral
Mm-hmm.
outside of like manning your bug. Yeah, but if they play man your bug, they play Nindoria and spares in defense. There's nothing they can do to get rid of it. But
That's true.
same for Lost One. Lost One also halves moth's attack. So unless they book it, I mean, it's just 1750.
Mm-hmm.
And offerings is also just generic removal.
Yeah.
So there's that. Only one back removal in the cosmic. I maybe for a specific card. I'm not sure what card in particular.
Yeah, I don't know. That cosmic does
Maybe
feel weird.
maybe for Nightmare Wheel, but I feel like if it was Nightmare Wheel, you'd use
Something
other cards
else,
for that.
yeah. Like
I'm not sure,
dust or something.
but you know, I don't play Viral Despair, so
Yeah.
yeah, they keep going. So let's see, for the next list, we have another Moth list from Maverick. Pretty similar list to Sofa Chords, but using triple Nightmare Wheel. It's 21 cards as well. And three Cosmic. I'm trying to say, I think, let's look back at the what Sofa Chord. So the main difference is Maverick isn't using Book of Moon at all.
Yeah.
So,
Instead, he's
yeah,
using more nightmare wheels and an extra Nidoria.
yeah. So it's actually more of like a, I shouldn't say more standard. Well, the six card back removal is pretty standard, but a more burn orientated list,
Mm-hmm.
I think, with the triple Nightmare Wheel. Much more defensive in that regard. The side deck has the third Kaiku there, double Lava Golem, so definitely more on the burn.
Yeah.
Double Diffusion and Soul Release. Soul Release is kind of an interesting card this format. It has a lot of implications against multiple decks, but I feel like it's mostly there for stall
Mm-hmm.
more than anything.
I agree.
Um, yeah, banishing Haunted Shrine with Zombina, especially if they already have a monster, so they can't chain Haunted Shrine. Using it in that situation to banish all those targets can be game winning. Especially, I guess, more than any other deck, maybe Skull Servants, but you know, no one plays that deck. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a very popular side deck option lately, I've noticed.
yeah, I've seen a lot more, which makes me think maybe he's used in matchups besides stall more than anything else. But
Mm-hmm. Like, I
like
could
maybe
see it
Mac,
being useful against unions. Not as useful as other cards, maybe, but like I could see why someone would side it if they didn't have
yeah,
anything else. Like if they wanted to use side deck cards that worked against both stall and unions, soul release is okay in that regard.
right, that makes sense. Um, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Let's see
Yep.
what's the next. So the
Ooh,
next list
we
actually is
got one of
unions.
our guys.
Yeah, so this build, the main deck is pretty standard.
Mm-hmm.
The two coverage cards besides the book is the Cosmic, which is it's pretty decent, right? Getting able to remove some back row that could challenge the summon like Book of Moon or Floodgate or even Diffusion side deck wise, those it's pretty good. Um, so a side deck, a very interesting side deck. So it uses DD Crow again here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Hammer Crush. Oh no, Hammer Shot. That's a very interesting card.
Yeah,
Probably.
I'm not familiar with that one. I have to look it up.
Yeah, so it's likely both a counter to Moth and for Obelisk, since it's like the only like spell removal for Obelisk that doesn't that can actually work on it since it doesn't target. Um, Do we have Lost
Hmm.
Wind and Mind
Oh,
Crush?
okay. So it's like a, I see. It's like
Right.
a reverse Fisher, but they have to be in attack position. Okay. I didn't realize we had a
Yeah.
card like that.
Yeah, and of course Obelisk, on a turn of summons, it can't be normal set, so it's going to be in face up attack position, lined and ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
So the Mind Crush, Lost Wind, and double Night Assailant. I mean, uh, like you said, Night Assailant is pretty decent actually right now. Maybe better now than it was before.
Yeah, definitely
For
better now than before. That was
yeah, yeah,
my
it's
first like meta call when I saw like all the skill changes and things. I was like, oh man, Knight Assailant is better in unions now.
yeah,
Like I think that it is like the good thing about Knight Assailant, and also the reason I main it is like it's very good against Moth, and it's pretty good against like most decks. I mean it's a little situational, of course, but um, it's like it there's applications and against like any deck. Like it's good against Spa. It can be good in the mirror, especially after they've fused. I mean, depending on what they fuse into, of course. If they fuse into something that can get rid of it, then it's not good. But
yeah.
there was something else. Oh yeah, and the fact that you can use Foolish Burial to put a Knight Assailant into the grave if you have one in your hand, and can just get like a full board wipe with XYZ or something like that is sometimes very useful.
Oh yeah, especially if you already have a nice sailing graveyard. So then Foolish has a little bit more utility. You can just use it to send a nice sailing, then just add itself back to your hand essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also really good versus stall. If they have the Zombina combination, you can just end the Zombina chain on its own. So now they have to have Haunted Shrine, but you're getting rid of all their cards at that point. So if they don't have any response, it can be really devastating for them, which makes your coverage cards even better. Um, like Book of Moon for like stopping like a Nidoria crash or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think
So
he's running Mind Crush?
probably as like a substitute for Cosmic. If you use it in chain to Parasite's effect, it will still be in hand. So you just call Parasite and it will
Hmm.
go to your.
I see.
A little more situational. It's not as flexible as Cosmic since you can just also blind hit back row of Cosmic. Can't redo that with Mind Crush, but
I guess you could
uh,
if so like if Moth was to use Cosmic on your Mind Crush, you could still try to call Parasite. Versus if you
yeah,
had a Cosmic yourself, you can't do anything.
yeah. Well, there is two problems with that though. The one inherent problem with Mind Crush is you have to have a hand to actually use it at all. So it means you may have to hold some stuff back, which I guess if it's a monster, then it's fine, you can just hold that. But in that situation, if they use Cosmic on it and you call it, they can just chain it, and on the resolution of Parasite's effect, it's no longer going to be in the hand
Hmm.
anymore.
I see.
So, so then now you end up actually having to discard one of your cards if they don't have another Parasite in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
So even then, it's not really that much worth using it like that. It's just it really is only really useful to just use it in response to Parasite's effect. Um, or at least as far as I know. I
Yeah,
mean, there's some other like Spellproof Armor. They usually play Summoner's Art, so you can just use Mind Crush after that to just call the monster.
that's true.
So it's just that. Or just to blind hit something. Like if you feel they have Jinzo or
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what other matchups would be useful. It's useful against Magnus if you call Valkyrian. If they have both
Uh-huh.
Valkyrian in hand, really screwed. I mean, oof, that'd be
Yeah,
that'd be an awful feeling.
that's true.
So yeah, it's versatile. It's just like the way in which you have to use it is more restrictive than you think, just
Yeah.
from having to have a
Oh,
hand
trust
in
me,
order.
when I think about it, I think of it as very restrictive. Like, to me, it's like all of these instances where it's actually useful are like, huh, that's not what I. Like, that's a weird thing, because I'm thinking of it as like, I don't see how you'd ever use this card, like, instinctually. But yeah,
Well,
that
I mean,
makes sense.
uh, Yeah, it definitely got more use earlier in the format. I used it a little bit until I realized those problems. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
never again, you know. But it's still decent if you want to make use of it, which I'm sure is why this person used it. In fact, I think this person went undefeated in Swiss, so
Hmm.
clearly worked out.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So next list we have another viral despair. This one is a little bit different. So more investment in Zombina and Midoriya,
Mm-hmm.
but also maybe I'm trying to think. Did the other list use Book of Moon? No, it didn't.
Mm-mm.
So one investing in that. And side deck, we have some back removal and Cosmic, Lava Golem for more burn, as well as Nightmare Wheel. But a very similar list in general.
Mm-hmm. The heart of the deck is very similar.
Oh, also offering to Doom. I didn't even notice that. That's
Oh
another
yeah.
thing as
The
well.
moons and the offerings are interesting. I feel like you don't usually see that, but maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
I mean, I guess by comparison, they're still pretty good generic generic cards
Yeah.
to use. But no floodgate. That's probably another big thing that's different as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yambro used the floodgate, which is very, I think, really good right now. Actually, I think it's kind of underrated.
Yeah, I think that Floodgate is especially good for stall because you can potentially like clog their board.
Yeah, that's the main benefit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, above everything else. Of course, the problem with it is that, it only does something on summon. So if they already have monster on board, it's not really doing anything to it. But it has a good combination of Book of Moon. It works on flip summons as well. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah. I kind of wonder, with two Varls topping, what do you think are good matchups Varl have in this meta?
That is kind of hard for me to say because I've not played Viral at all, but I've it seems like they're good against unions, at least to me. They've given me a lot of grief. Um Let me think. What else are they good against?
The first thing that comes to mind to me for it um, is actually Moth. In
Hmm.
that, not that it generally beats it, but the Zombina loop with Nudoria is very obnoxious for Moth to deal with once it gets rolling. Like dealing with any individual monster isn't super hard, but having them face down and then building up to have Haunted Shrines be live really like mess with the deck. Which I kind of feel like it's also partial, and this may just be like a coincidence of like a of an awkwardness. Like Cosmic Cyclone really like messes with Haunted Shrine just by banishing it, but the fact that they can just use it preemptively, or even just like using Cosmics on that, rather, I guess in this list in particular, using that on the shrine instead of like Book of Moons or offerings, really like mess with Moth. So as long as Moth is dealt with, the rest of the deck doesn't really have a very good out to viral or any of the other like loops. So with the skill, you can just keep decking them out at that point. At least that's
Hmm.
how I don't actually know this.
Interesting.
But
Yeah, that makes some sense. Hmm.
maybe I don't know. I mean, I think the problem I have with viral is that it's still a little inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's times where you don't have shrines or you don't have the Zombino loop actually live, so it can just kind of be like meandering about until that point. But um, sorry, sir.
I definitely think it's a good deck, and I think that it could be very it could be a problem if it gets optimized like completely.
Oh yeah, for sure. I wonder if they'll eventually use the giant rat engine just so they can make Zombino loop effective earlier on. But
I've seen a
maybe
little
that.
of that, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because like I feel like the best discard fodder really is just Night Assailant. Like Despair is good, just to get out into the graveyard. But I feel like Night Assailant's a real like star here,
Oh
just
yeah,
because it keeps recycling.
definitely.
Yeah.
Do you think
So,
this deck? What do you think about Foolish Burial in this deck? In like the
um,
zombie stall.
well, I know I've asked Viral Despair players what they think of it, and they have like mixed responses. Like the main thing they would say is that they'd rather have the monster than have Foolish, so they can discard it with Viral. But I mean the idea of Foolish here is just you can make Zombina like live more often.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have Zombina plus Foolish, you can just activate Foolish to send Nidori and just set Zombina and just call it a day. But um,
Or get Night
I think
Assailant looping more
or yeah.
live.
Right, Night of Sand as well is even better.
Honestly, even putting Despair into the grave if you have the combo to get him back. But
Right, that's true.
it seems
Well, it has a
very
lot of utility here.
versatile to me, but I mean, I'm not a stall player, so I could just be like not seeing how it. Like, I could also imagine it adding the inconsistency, maybe.
And maybe right, because I think sometimes you'd rather just like you'd rather have like actual defense than just that,
Yeah.
because if you don't have the combo pieces with it, it's kind of not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like at best, it's kind of like discard fodder, or maybe you would use it preemptively and hope you get the other pieces. But yeah, it's like, I don't know if it's that worth. I mean, I imagine it's still good in there. I just don't know how much investment they'd want with it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I could see that.
So, we got the next list, which is Magnet Warriors. They've
This
had
is
some like a little bit.
the top 8, the 8
Right,
itself.
right. So Magnet Warriors have had a little bit of resurgence recently. Last Winter Box they topped as well, multiple times in fact.
Mm-hmm.
So this list actually is pretty standard. I guess the interesting thing is using Fairy Wind.
Yeah, I have to look that one up too.
Yeah, it's interesting because this also destroys the field spell, uh, as well.
Hmm.
Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Santa Claus is pretty standard in the deck just to get rid of monsters and the being able to reuse it.
Yeah.
That's pretty useful. Um, let's see. People are definitely investing more in the double Valk than the one Valk. I know for a good while Magnets have just been focused on as the variety deck a little bit. They'd have like the swarming capabilities and have it be supported by a lot of generic useful cards like Book of Moon and playing like Cosmic a little bit, but not
Mm-hmm.
Cosmic, but without Zoma.
And like good
Uh,
traps.
right, like Widespread. I guess Widespread is here now as well, or Mirror Wall. That's what they
Mm-hmm.
coined. But yeah, it's a pretty standard list. I think sometimes people use a little bit more magnets, like they would use like 2 gamma instead of just a 1-1 ratio with the alpha.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
that.
it's pretty standard. The fairy one definitely is the thing I'm interested in the most. So I'm not sure what matchup he wants to use that against. He'd want to main it and then also side another one.
Yeah, I'm, I'm also not sure. Maybe the mirror? Maybe?
Maybe, but it destroys his own field spell, right? As well.
He might be trying to use it first and destroy theirs. I mean,
Maybe.
sometimes this deck really does not have an issue with getting the field spell back though, and that kind of goes both ways. You're running 3 fields and 3 metas like always in magnets. Usually you get your field spell pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. It is true. It does remove Zomas as well. That's one that I think one of the main weaknesses of this deck. The deck relies a lot on having life points, like kind of high life
Mhm.
points generally.
I forgot
So
that
Zoma,
it does remove Zoma. That's a good point.
yeah, that's probably like a really good card for that.
And Nightmare
Um,
Wheel, because we've seen a few of those.
right, that too. So yeah, actually, I guess in that case, it's more like a bomb card just for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, makes sense then. Um, it does kind of suck. It destroys your own field spell though, but that's a pretty good trade-off, I think, getting rid of multiple Zomas and wheels. But you will still take damage, I think, per one destroyed. Like, let's see,
Yeah,
each
each
player takes
player.
total card destroyed by this effect times 300. Okay, so if you destroy 2 ones, you're still taking good damage. But getting rid of Zoma is much better for taking this damage compared to Zoma. So let's see. So the side deck, the second Santa Claus there, um, uh, cross out Lost Wind in the second Fairy Wind. Well, this is where Nobleman is actually being used a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Probably for like Maneater Bug and Edoria. Because this deck does kind of struggle with like dealing with stuff like that and Moth at the same time. Um, Stuff like Nidoria Maneater Bug makes it easier for Magnus to just have one monster on the field. So then when Parasite uh, gets rid of it for Moth, they have no monsters to defend themselves. And even if they survive the hit, their life points are so low, it's hard for them to make an immediate comeback by attacking into the Moth. So it can be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So the cross out is very useful just to get rid of all of that. Um, let's see.
Yeah.
Lost Wind's pretty standard. I feel like maybe it's hot take. I feel like Lost Wind is just kind of okay right now. Like a lot of other cards are just able to kind of do what it did before the skill clarification.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main things Lost Wind was really good, at least what I think, was that it was one, if maybe the only card that really prevented unions from having a free pop with their effect. Of course, you can use book to chain to it, but outside of that, it was the only thing that like prevented the initial pop. But now skill clarification, anything can do that. Really, I mean, Book of Moon can do it. Offerings can just destroy it before it even uses its effect. Floodgate Trapple even, which is even more powerful. So it feels, but of course, it negates the effects, half his attack, and can be reset onto the field.
Yeah.
But it feels slightly power crept because of this skill clarification.
Yeah, I agree. It almost feels like the best thing, like the reasons I like it now are like different from, like, I don't think of it as being a great card versus unions anymore. I think of it as being good against like Valkyrion or like Moth or Despair, maybe. I don't know. Even then,
Yeah,
it's like there are other removal cards that you could be playing. But the
yeah,
fact that
and
it
like
resets itself is cool. But yeah, there are
yeah,
definitely better cards you could run against unions, which was like the only reason it used to be played.
yeah. Well, if anything, it makes Defusion even more powerful since it can also be used before
Mm-hmm.
effect. So it feels like Lost Wind has just been kind of completely usurped by Defusion at this point. Maybe Book of Moon as well, but
I'm wondering
uh,
if he's not using it as like only against unions though. Like I wonder if he's using it for the other stuff also.
I can probably see that. It's kind of a weird thing using it against Moth using Magnus though, just because even with Moth's attack being halved, it's still bigger than all the magnets.
That's
That's really
true.
annoying. So I mean, well, it's much less damage you have to take,
Yeah,
but
that's what
still.
I was kind of thinking. But yeah, it is still bigger.
Yeah, and of course it's even worse if it's in defense position. But not that it's going to be a lot of times it's going to be in defense unless they book their own Moth just to get like some more damage in. But I don't know. Like
Yeah,
if a mag attack it, they will book
it
them
is
off.
kind
But
of redundant considering the field spell. It does, yeah. I feel like it would be better if it was a different card. I think Moon is probably better.
maybe
I could be wrong. The fact
I
it
do
does
kind of
reset itself is neat, though. I don't know.
yeah, but only really against fusion decks. I mean, which I guess in this case only really against unions. So it's like I mean that's good. One of the main benefits from that, besides like just the nature of resetting itself, is also it inclined the union player to have to read, like they only have like one discard left. They're kind of inclined to use that on the Lost Wind instead of any other card now.
Mm-hmm.
Or they use it on something else, and now you have to deal with Lost Wind. but it's tough. I think in magnets, I kind of wonder what card would they even need to use against Moth that could be more substantial. Because against Moth, I mean, you have to attack, and that's good. You know, taking less damage. It's easier to crash into and not take nearly any damage. But at the same time, if they book their own Moth, um, you're still taking like a lot of damage from that, even if you bounce it back. And then if Moth attacks one of the magnets anyway, even if you lost winded, I mean, your magnet is still like dead.
Mm-hmm.
So if they they can still overwhelm you with, especially with Zoma, right? Zoma not only is the damage really high, but is also bigger than any magnet. So combining that with Moth, they're still going to get over your board and still do a lot of damage anyway. So it's like I kind of wonder what they should even use. Maybe Wabaku, maybe I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough.
I don't know. I'm not a magnet player, so I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe Tribute to Doom is like the answer too. I don't know.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
dabbled with magnets. I kind of, I don't know. I have faith in them. I think they're very strong, this meta. I mean, they have issues, but I think that they're pretty strong.
yeah, I should go into them a little bit more when I practice, but they just feel kind of awkward, you know. Like a part of me wants to play more of a pure orientated one that tries to like turbo Valkyrian and have like Delta there as backup, but it's like the deck is a little too big to have too many coverage cards, but the strategy itself isn't as good against Moth as I had initially thought. Like it's good, but it's not. I haven't really have a fully formed strategy against them quite yet, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, that's a day for another time kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. Is that is there anything else that Alam usually does? It feels like we've sort of reached the.
I think that's pretty much it. We I guess we kind of talked about a whole lot here besides just the top eight. Just talking about the nature of Speed Duel and the decks, how they've changed.
Yeah. I think my Discord might be about to crash. It's acting a little weird, so we should wrap it up. I guess once again, congratulations to Free Squee for second, and congratulations to Sofa Cord for first. Theg win. Is that the first Theg win, or has Theg has had a first place before?
I don't know. I consider them all never winning at this point, but
Huh.
you know,
I mean, if you're a Theg, you just automatically lose.
that's why I assume that's their history.
Yeah. Like, frankly, they should just, like, forfeit at the beginning of a match.
Yeah.
Um,
But who's going to complain about the rigging if they don't enter?
yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, well, this has been the Speed Duel League Win-A-Box unofficial number 17 video.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, thanks for joining me to commentate. I definitely think that the video would have been a lot worse otherwise.
Yeah, maybe. We had a lot to talk about, so.
Yeah. Alright, well, peace out, everyone.
Yep, see you later.